What is up, Big C Nation? Welcome back to the Big C Invitational Season 2. Yeah, big announcement. We're starting. I'll say next week is the first week of games. We just had our draft this week. Some new faces, some new names, and some new teams. So let's get into it. Let's take a look at these. This is all in pick order, by the way. First team is Adam, returning from last year. Adam, I believe, tied for 5th, lost in the quarterfinals. Little first pick Tyranitar action. His team, a lot of physical threats on this team. He's maybe trolling a little bit, picking Tyranitar and Shedinja in the same team. Hopefully doesn't make that mistake, but we'll see. Yeah, first thing I noticed, no real special threats except for Alakazam. Though Alakazam can be quite threatening, especially if there's no Tyranitar to deal with on enemy teams. A lot of weird things that Pokemon can do. I'm wondering if he's going to go with some weird choice band spam. You get some good choice band Pokemon. I mean, Medicham, obviously. Tyranitar can run it. That could just be some overwhelming offense. He didn't pick many defensive things that synergize well with Tyranitar. I mean, you have Registeel is the only thing immune to Sandstorm. I think can be quite tanky, but I mean, he doesn't really want to come in on any hits that Tyranitar doesn't want to take. I mean, fighting and ground type moves are going to hit Registeel like a truck. Something that is interesting though is the Gyarados pick. I thought about this as after the draft, but all the hits that Tyranitar doesn't want to take, Gyarados is kind of fine taking. Like those ground and fighting type hits are not going to do much to Gyarados, and Gyarados does take neutral to grass. There's not that many good grass hits that are that threatening anyways, but Gyarados kind of takes those pretty well, especially with Intimidate to drop the attack of any fighting type moves. It also can sometimes beat some common switch-ins like a Skarmory or some of those water types like a Swampert. I mean, a Gyarados, especially if it runs Taunt, can just keep those Pokemon from poisoning it. It pretty much outspeeds them always. And just boost up with Dragon Dance and become really scary. And then all of a sudden Tyranitar goes crazy after that, so I can see a little bit of synergy there. Miltank, definitely an interesting Pokemon that access to instant healing and a little heal bell action could prove pretty nicely. Could prove to be pretty useful. Overall, not a ton of defensive options on this team. I mean, you have Registeel. Registeel does take hits well, but that's really all it does. Doesn't really do anything back. Maybe some kind of rest and Seismic Toss or Toxic Sets. Not too sure. Miltank can definitely, maybe a little rest and then Miltank heal bells. I don't know. I can see that being really annoying. Like a little rest Gyarados, rest Registeel, and Miltank heals them all back up. Maybe even on Tyranitar. Who knows? Anyways, let's move on. Oscar, also a returner. Dude got his rock. Regirock again. I know he said that was a big point of relief for him, getting the Regirock back. Picking the Salamence, I know he we actually interviewed him after the draft, and he said this was one that he had a lot of issues planning against last year, so he wanted to try it out. Him and Jagan obviously were big scrim partners, so he faced this thing a lot. Breloom, interesting Pokemon, very threatening. Some teams just won't have things that can beat Breloom, and that Spore is just the only thing to deal with. Oscar's got interesting double Regicore. Regice and Regirock with a little play doll to help them out with those clearing those spikes away. So maybe they could need some pretty good defensive options. Something interesting, I think, is also the Butterfree pick. Only 3 points. Butterfree seems to be maybe underrated in our draft league format. I've checked around in other draft leagues, and it seems like Butterfree is generally pretty low rated. I saw one where it was like 1 point. I haven't seen anywhere it's worth more than 3, which is really interesting. I know that Pokemon has access to, what is it, Compound Eyes to increase accuracy, and then Sleep Powder. So it's almost like another Breloom. Also has Stun Sport too, so it can do a little bit of extra. But maybe a little bit of overlap with Breloom, but maybe use a more aggressive Breloom set. I don't know. Overall, I like this team. It has some decent identity. Some things to take hits, and then Breloom maybe clears the way for a Salamence sweep at the end. So some cool Pokemon though. Justin, our first newcomer. Justin comes from Clash Royale fame. Many people might not know this, but he, I believe, lived in a gaming house at one point. It was a professional Clash Royale player, so we'll see if it opens back up. He took the Pokemon phrase, catch 'em all, a little too literally. We'll see if he changes anything up, but overall it's not a bad team. I mean, Metagross, Melodic, Moltres, pretty, kind of a cool core. I mean, Metagross and Melodic were on the same team last year, and we saw Brandon, I think, just rip a Choice Band Explosion turn 1 almost every single game, which in an OU format I think is honestly not too bad, because you bait in things like Skarmory, or you're trading with other like pretty powerful Pokemon, maybe like a Suicune or a Swampert to open up your threats in the back. But in a draft league format, you might be trading your Metagross for, I don't know, something like a Pidgeot or whatever, and that's not really a trade you want to make. So we'll see if he changed up that strategy a little bit. I know Metagross and Moltres, I think they kind of cover each other's weaknesses a little bit. Moltres can actually find some good entry points with the fire and ground moves that are often fired at Metagross. So once that thing gets in, it can be very tough to deal with those offensive fire types, and spamming some Will-O-Wisp, burning things. That's always really annoying. The Machamp is interesting to me. I really want to see what this Machamp does. I always, as a kid, I always thought that was a really cool Pokemon, but it doesn't always have a ton of success in Gen 3, but I think it's underrated. Access to Encore, I believe. That can be a really annoying move in Gen 3 because of the variance and how long it can last. Other than that, I mean, some okay defensive options with Melodic, and I guess Meganium can kind of fit in there. Meganium, I don't know if it has access to Aromatherapy. I never see that Pokemon, so I really don't know. But that could be kind of nice, actually. Curing any burns that Justin's side might incur. Yeah, that's really all I have for Justin's team. Moving on to Liam. It's cool to be cruel, folks. You heard it here first. Liam has an interesting team. I don't know exactly what the identity is. I mean, Dragonite, always a fun Pokemon to see. Love me some Fortress. Got a double Rapid Spinner, double Rapid Spin blocking, and 2 Ghost types. That's interesting. I don't know if he has necessarily the defensive options to switch around enough to rack up Spike's damage, but I don't know, maybe Dragonite and Gengar can force a bunch of switches. We'll see. I know he really wanted the Electrode to make it explode, so stay tuned for that. We'll see how often he rips that one. Maybe it's a bluff, maybe it's not. Remains to be seen. Overall, Rhydon, kind of a cool physical defensive Pokemon. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, it does have some decent defensive options. I mean, Dusclops Rhydon Tentacruel could be a kind of cool defensive core. They seem to kind of... Actually, they do... And with Dragonite and Gengar being immune to ground type moves for Rhydon and Tentacruel, could definitely force some nice 50-50s in your favor. Maybe get some entry points for that Fortress and Spikes options. I don't know, we'll see. See how this goes. We got Billy. Billy picking the Ninjask, what an annoying Pokemon. Also has the Skarmory. Can maybe, honestly, maybe a little Spikes offense action. You have Blaziken and Nidoking, two just absolute threats with a lot of coverage. Can hit a lot of things, maybe force a lot of switches. Same with Wailord, honestly. It's powerful water spouts and explosion nothing really wants to take. Honestly, has a lot of water types to the Psyduck at the bottom. What an awesome Pokemon. I could see maybe some really annoying speed pass strategies. Ninjask switching, or yeah, I guess passing it to like a Blaziken that's fast seems really annoying to deal with. A Wailord, fast Wailord with Water Spout. Oh man, I don't know if anyone wants to deal with that. Honestly, not a bad defensive core with Skarmory and Porygon too. That's like the poor man's Skarmbliss. Porygon 2 obviously a lot weaker on the special side, but still has access to things like Thunder Wave and Toxic and Recover for healing. No natural cure, so doesn't live nearly as long from a Toxic and can't shrug those off as much, but Trace can always be fun to play with. It's an exciting team. I'm excited to see what Billy has in store for us. And wait a second. I think I've seen this one before. Is that Blissey and Swampert and Houndoom on the same team? For those that don't know, we're first-time viewers, this was the core that brought the champion of Season 1 to a pretty decisive victory throughout the season. I mean, you take something with good special defense and something with good physical defense and stick them together. And you know what? Good options. Not as good as Skarmbliss, but Swampert can definitely take some of those physical hits better than most. Only weak to grass, which Blissey's going to shrug off. Maybe run a rest set with a little Heal Bell action. Is it Heal Bell or Aromatherapy that Blissey gets? I think it gets Aromatherapy. Another scary Pokemon on this team is Heracross. Interesting to see maybe some sub-Salac or reversal strategies. You know, with that Mega Horn in reversal is kind of hard to switch into and can sometimes just clean up games. So maybe once he wears stuff down with this defensive core, Heracross maybe goes crazy. Other than that, this team, we got the Jolteon and the Jinx. Those things can be kind of annoying. I could see this team struggling to make a lot of progress. I mean, something that Jack's team had last year, this team doesn't, is the Fortress. To get the spikes on the field and the Dusclops to keep them on. And when you have the defensive switches to everything, forcing the enemy to switch a lot, and they're racking up spikes damage. But this team doesn't quite have the spikes. You have Hitmonlee to maybe remove spikes if you need to, get you out of trouble. Houndoom to Pursuit Trap things. So it definitely has the longevity on this team, but I'm not sure about the progress-making potential in the early game. That's one thing that this team might deal with. But once it gets going, man, that Heracross is scary. Let's move forward to Kevin. For the viewers at home, Snorlax, my favorite Pokemon, so can't go wrong with that. I think he's just a cool guy. Loved using him as a kid. I enjoy using it in Gen 3, so what an awesome dude. Kevin back for round 2. Picked up, actually doesn't have any of the same Pokemon he had. the first round. There's a little bit of an identity on this team. I mean, you have Donphan that can take physical hits. Snorlax, maybe a little late game action. Celebi can... I wonder if we can... We're going to see some Celebi, Swords Dance, or Calm Mind Pass action. I mean, Swords Dance Pass to a Scizor could be kind of annoying, though Scizor can just Swords Dance itself. Maybe some Calm Mind Pass to a Vaporeon or Typhlosion action. Or maybe even Haunter. That thing is not slow, so with enough Calm Mind boosts, Haunter could be quite threatening. We saw Scizor last year, how threatening that can be with Jagon's team. Vaporeon can be, honestly, can supplement Snorlax or Donphan a little bit with its Wish support. I believe Vaporeon gets Wish in earlier gens. Can't quite remember, not super familiar with that Pokemon, though I know that can be a pretty good lead matchup for a lot of things, almost like a Suicune Light while beating Suicune, so some interesting stuff there. We'll see what Kevin pulls out. We got Dean. When he was drafting, the first thing I thought of was, man, this guy likes Gen 1 Pokemon. Picking 2 starters and Zapdos and Starmie. He changed up later towards the end, but that was the first thing I thought. This team has a lot of special attackers. That's really it. I mean, hey, he's just gonna spam some special attacks and hope he wears some stuff down. I could see maybe a little rain action with Ludicolo and Starmie firing off Hydro Pumps, Zapdos with Thunder. That could be quite threatening. And something else interesting is the Diglett. Diglett still does get Arena Trap. Not nearly as powerful as its evolved form Dugtrio. Maybe a third less as powerful. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I think it's maybe like 30 less attack, not actually 1/3, but there is only one of them, so you never know. But that maybe a little choice band Arena Trap action to get rid of a Blissey. I don't know how low Blissey has to be for Diglett to actually kill it, so maybe we'll see that, maybe we won't. Umbreon, an interesting Pokemon you don't see that much. It's very tanky. It's got some cool utility options. Got Baton Pass, Curse, Mean Look. Some interesting setup options. Maybe you Curse and pass to a, I don't know, maybe Venusaur. That's probably the best recipient of it. I don't think anything else really wants to have the negative speed of Curse, but I don't know, we'll see. A lot of potential here. Next we have August, no longer known as Augie. He lost that privilege last year. Or last season, sorry. And he's got an interesting team, a lot of rain potential. I mean, he got a lot of water types. Slowbro, Kingdra, Cloyster. Kingdra famously annoying to deal with in the rain. It could be quite a dangerous late game sweeper. I mean, you also have Plusle, maybe a little Thunder action. Who knows? So another low point Arena Trapper and Trapinch. Actually has higher attack than Dugtrio in Gen 3. Somewhat interesting. Though it is way slower and might just be dying in one hit to the thing you trap, so gotta be really careful there. Aerodactyl, also another late game monster. I mean, you got some spike support with Cloyster, so if he can get going, man, that Kingdra in the rain or Aerodactyl could just be absolutely pain to deal with. Chansey, I mean, it's kind of like a Blissey Light. Honestly, not that much worse than Blissey in this generation. I think the actual stat differences are maybe only like 5. Though the big thing is you don't have nearly as much special attack, so those Ice Beams and Thunderbolts might not be as viable. Might need to rely on Seismic Toss for the damage. Or Poison. Espeon with some... I believe Espeon gets, Calm Mind and Baton Pass, so... maybe some Calm Mind boosts transferred to a Kingdra could be kind of an interesting win condition. Smeargle, obviously, very threatening. Maybe some baton pass strategies there. Who knows? A little spore action. Maybe some spikes. Keep on the field with Misdreavus. A Cloyster can always do that. Oh no, we'll see. Finally, the champ is back. The brand new team. I know it. There's an interview with Jack I'm going to post on the channel soon, kind of detailing a little bit of his thought process behind this team. Some interesting threats. I know he intentionally tried to pick things that he didn't have last season, just to change it up a little bit. He was last in the pick order anyways, so... Oh. Siri's talking to me. But yeah, Raikou dropping this low is really interesting. For those that don't know, I mean, you might see Raikou and go, oh, that Pokemon's not that good. Why is it worth 18 points? But Raikou is actually a very powerful Pokemon. It just isn't quite super viable in the Gen 3 OU metagame because of things like its teammate here, Dugtrio. Being weak to Dugtrio, pretty much auto-losing to Dugtrio and Blissey. He doesn't auto-lose to Blissey, but he's definitely a little stonewalled by it for once he gets enough Calm Mind boosts. Those are two very common Pokemon, so being that weak to those and weak to spikes, it's, you know, it just kind of gets outclassed by Zapdos and Jolteon. Jolteon obviously can't be trapped by Dugtrio, it's faster. Baton passes out. But Jack has the Dugtrio, so you only have one or two teams you need to worry about for that Raikou, so that thing might be able to go wild. We'll see. Hariyama, interested to see how that thing is used this year. Last year, Oscar used it and got some good mileage out of it, but I don't believe he used knockoff a single time, and obviously that is one of Hariyama's best traits. One of the only Pokemon that has access to that move. And knocking off leftovers, even without Sandstorm, is still pretty significant. You're not getting that chip healing. A lot of things just last not nearly as long, especially without or for Pokemon without recovery. So interested to see what he does there. Flygon, honestly, almost like a discount Swampert. Immune to spikes. That could be nice to have. Slacking. I mean, we know this thing's a menace. I don't know how good it is, really, but if you're not prepared, this thing can rip through your team. He's got a little spike support with Amistar, and I know Mawile has some baton pass strategies that can be quite annoying. Camerupt, some good coverage. Fire and Ground is some great coverage to have, especially with stab on both those and access to Explosion. So, see what he does. Looking at my preliminary rankings, this one was a little bit tougher than last year. Obviously, 10 teams makes the Pokemon be diluted a little bit more. We also enforced the point values and point caps for teams this time, so teams are a little bit weaker across the board, making them, I don't know, a lot more similar to each other. It's kind of hard to determine which one I really like the best. I did separate it into 2 tiers, Tier 1 and Tier 2. These aren't in any particular order. Oscar, Jack, Zach, August, Justin, and Billy's teams I like a little bit more. They think they have a little more identity. Adam, Liam, Kevin, and Dean definitely had some options and a lot of potential. Especially Adam's team, I think. But didn't quite have, I think, the flexibility to put them up to Tier 1. And again, these are pretty close, if I'm going to be honest. If I had to pick my favorite team, I'm really not sure. Zach does have the tried and true Blissey Swampert core. I mean, that is a pretty good one, but I'm not sure. I'm excited to see how these competitors put stuff together next week. Tune in. I know in week 1 we actually have a very exciting matchup. We have August versus Jack to start off. 2 returners who did quite well, and I know there's a little bit of a rivalry brewing amongst them. They were, I believe, scrim partners and played a lot of matches together in Season 1, so they're looking to strike. strike now, strike early, and strike hard. Definitely a match for pride. So stay tuned next week. Hopefully we'll get some good games for you guys. We'll see y'all then. Bye.